Welcome, babe.
Thank you.
For those that don't know who we are, I'm Dina and I own Imperial Bodies and I am the host of IB Radio. Do you want to tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, I suppose it might help. So I'm Haydn. I'm head coach at IB Radio, at IB Gym. Yeah.
And he's also my partner.
Yeah, there is that element as
My
well.
fiance.
I suppose I forgot to add.
Hey. Yeah. For those that don't know, so today I want to talk about your journey into fitness, and I want to also dispel some myths and presumptions that a lot of people might have about us as PTs, gym owners, and believe that this is our life and we've got everything sorted out.
Okay.
So, do you want to tell people what got you into the gym, if you remember?
Yeah, so I was kind of, as a kid, I was active because I did, at primary school, I played for the local rugby team. I started my journey into martial arts, which was a major part of my life. But obviously, as a kid, it's doing it for fun. So I was active, but I was always the fat kid at school, which at primary school was, yeah, the odd bit of a comment here, there, and everywhere. I had one sort of standard bully, but it was kind of like, it was what it was. Then moving up to secondary school, so where I'm from, you went from the local village, which is just people you know, to then secondary school that has everybody coming from loads of different places. So 5 times the amount of people. I was the instant target. I got heavily bullied all through school. I'm talking suicide attempts because of how bad it was, and me generally not wanting to leave the house. And it got bad, and it just got to a point where, you know, I fell into that victim mentality of, this is just me, this is how it is. And it got bad enough to the point where I was like, I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. And I'd always been interested in fitness because it was, like I say, it was part of what I did. But I think one thing that really halted me was when you go through school and you get to the GCSEs and you pick, I happened to ask one of my PE teachers, just out of curiosity, well, what's involved in a PE course? Because all I know about PE is we do an exercise for the session. So obviously not knowing, well, what's the classroom side of things, I generally asked, and his response was a laugh. He literally laughed. He went, well, you're clearly not going to do it, are you? So that was an instant like, okay, well, obviously this isn't for me then, because I've got adults telling me it's not for me. And then, yeah, dealing with all that. And it just got to a point where I hit sort of 16 and I was actually turning professional in what I was doing for martial arts. And it was like, well, I need to now do other stuff to take this seriously. Then I started going to the gym. That's when I sort of fell in love with it. My cousin, who I was close to at the time, he was heavy into the gym. He was more into football, which I have nothing to do with football. He was doing a sports course at college. He said, I think you'd probably enjoy it based on conversations we've had. And it sort of just went from there. And it then became I don't want to say my love affair with the gym, but my main thing was my martial arts, and my gym was the conditioning I did alongside it. And it kind of, that's what started it, to answer your question, is it was a two-sided meet of being finally the term of, you know, the final straw that broke the camel's back was finally like, okay, well, if I stay like this is going to carry on into my adult life, and it's already affecting me negatively. So I need to do something. And it was that kind of finally having the confidence and the accountability to go, right, well, actually do something then, and needing to do it, because I was like, well, actually, I really enjoy this, and I've got to do the gym to get better at it, and that's where it started.
Yeah, and when you talk about, you know, you had to do this because of, you know, primary school and how you were, and otherwise it's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
Are you talking about being the fat kid and you had to kind of get into the gym to stop that?
It's, you know, at the first level, it's, the name calling. And you get used to it after a while and you learn to switch off. But then it progresses to the physical. And then it progresses to like what I class as like the psychological. It's the being excluded from stuff, being made an example in front of other people, being isolated. And it's, you know, and the situation I had was, it wasn't just going on at school. The main bully lived 2 doors down, and other lived in the village. So it'd get to a point where it was them coming home as well. And I was like, I'm now in a point where I don't want to leave my house. And like I say, it led me to points where as a child, I did try to kill myself. And it's that, this is bad and I don't want that. But like I say, you have that, I suppose most people have this same thing of like, well, this is just me. This is the situation I'm in. And it just got to a point where I finally was like, I'm fed up of accepting this. This is hard as it is dealing with this on a daily basis. So I know it's going to be hard to change it, but it's no harder than me sitting here throwing up and having full-on anxiety, getting dressed for school, thinking I've got to leave the house knowing at some point today, yeah, I know I'm going to get verbal abuse, but am I going to get shoved down the stairs? Am I going to get my head kicked in? Am I going to get on the school bus and then all my stuff be thrown out the window, so I've then got to walk back to get everything? And I was like, I'm just done with this. And, you know, and people always say it's weird because, like, at the time, I was a European champion in martial arts. Well, you know how to defend yourself. And it's like, no, because that's a sport. And I was always taught. So 2 instances happened in primary school where I finally stood up for myself and I was the one that got in trouble. So I was taught very early on that you shouldn't fight. And then I was also warned if I fight, I'd get kicked out of the club. So it's like, okay, well, I did what I thought was right to defend myself. I got punished, but me saying I'm being bullied constantly led to nothing. There was no intervention. There was no... And then when there was intervention, the bullying got worse because the bullies got in trouble. So I was sort of programmed to keep my mouth shut. And like I say, it then just finally got to a point where I was like, okay, well, that's one type of suffering. I want to replace that and get rid of it. So I'm going to have to suffer in another way, which is, okay, I'm going to have to start going to the gym and taking it seriously. I am going to start sorting out my food. And yeah, and it kind of happened around that time of my final growth peak. And yeah, in a very short time frame, I did lose the weight and I did change, and it did then develop into other things moving forwards. But that's what kicked it off.
And I think you touched on quite a few important bits there, because there's a lot of people that are overweight that are really scared of coming to the gym, and they will think about all the things that you were thinking of as that kid going to school. What are people going to say? Am I going to get picked on? Are they going to comment on my weight? Am I going to be on a video somewhere and be called out because I'm an overweight person in the gym and I shouldn't be there? One thing, obviously I know about you because you're my fiance, has those fears carried into the gym with you through your life? Like that same mentality, the psychological aspect of being that kid growing up and always having that negativity and those perceptions of what people are going to be thinking and maybe saying?
I think something that people need to realise is that for the majority of people that start the journey from the same type of mind frame, that mind frame never goes. You know, I'm sure Dee will tell you better than what I would. I still struggle, not as much now, but definitely up to like a year ago, heavily with body dysmorphia issues. I don't see what other people see, and I hear voices in my head that aren't reflective of reality, but they're still voices in my head, and there's that constant comparison to others. And some of it is, I think it's two-part. A lot of it is because I had it conditioned into me mentally from a young age that this is what I am, and that doesn't change what you see in the mirror all the while. But then also I literally kind of went from one extreme to another, and with like the world of martial arts and professional fighting, you're constantly sticking to weight categories. You know, I walked around at like 4% body fat for a long period of time, but that wasn't healthy either. And I'm now stuck, I'm kind of, my mentality is stuck in these two worlds where it's, you know, I have people play compliments on how I look, and I'm just like, no. And it's not enough. And it is that, it's coming to terms with that. I appreciate that I'm a lot healthier now than I was. And I appreciate, yeah, I probably do look better. But, you know, I'm sure Dee will tell you, you know, we go on holiday where it's nice hot weather and I'm still the person covered up in a t-shirt on the beach or by the pool because I don't feel confident enough to take my top off, even though I've got an 8-pack. It's, unfortunately, for a lot of people, those things don't go away. What has helped is, if we include the fitness journey, is having therapy and having someone help me break it down and go through this to process stuff. You know, I can say honestly, I'm nowhere near as bad as I was this time last year. It's still there. I'm not going to say it's not. That'll be a lie. But it was difficult because I was doing everything I could, but it still didn't change those problems being there. And I think it's something people need to be aware of, you know, yes, it's a difficult thing, but it's not just as simple as, well, if I just go to the gym and eat properly, that's going to solve the problem. It's not. It's a start point, but there is an ongoing background work that, you know, without trying to plug, it's something we try and work on with people, but there's only so much of it we can do if you've got to be willing to do those other bits as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm going to find this difficult because I'm emotionally connected with you and I can already feel the tears. And it is hard when you're living with somebody with that, oh my God, when they struggle mentally. And living with that sort of eating disorder, because I don't see what you see. And I can't be your therapist because I'm your partner. And I think that is what I try and bring into the gym, because so many men and women criticize themselves before they've even stepped through the door, and they constantly do it on the gym floor. And I think when you're dealing with that belief, those voices in your head, and I work with a lot of women that do that, it's like, how do you get past that? So what dialogue are you saying? Fucking hell. What words are you giving yourself to get to the gym, to motivate yourself to do something and to try and look at yourself in a different way, whilst you're also coaching people to do the things that we preach about? Because we had the conversation the other day about, you know, people have this perception that we've got our shit together and we don't struggle like the public. And yet you've just explained that you struggle more than most people. You're living with an eating disorder. You don't like what you see in the mirror. You grew up being bullied because of what you look like, and this is kind of part of who you are. All those experiences are who you are today. And you're here trying to make a difference to other people's lives, telling people to walk through the door, and still walking around with the belief that you can't be that person because they're not going to want to work with us, and that authority figure. And it's like, we're just human. You're a real person just trying to make a difference to your life and help people along the way. So yeah, what are you telling yourself to show up and help people whilst not disclosing too much about you when it comes to like losing weight and doing something for yourself?
So I think before I answer that, I think there's something you said a few times there that's really important for people to get their head around, and it's, you use the term eating disorder. And I think the major issue is, and even I was guilty of this, when we hear eating disorder, we think of anorexia or bulimia. We think of people that starve themselves, like literally eating nothing but doing hours and hours of cardio. Or we look at bulimia, which is people that will pig out and then force themselves to throw up. I was doing neither of those things. My eating disorder was, right, I've got to, I'm going to do keto because this is going to be what strips off the body fat and keeps the muscle. But I'd take it to the extreme and then it'd be like, right, I'm just going to have steak and eggs for the next couple of weeks to try and get this extra bit of body fat off. And it's that eating disorder is disorganized eating. It's, yes, it can work to a degree, but it's then focusing too much on it and we're leaning into it. And that's probably habits that people will probably be doing and not realize they actually have an eating disorder, because you just think, oh, eating disorder is someone who's anorexic, who's, I'm not living off of a cracker a day and that. And it's like, no, you may not be, but if you are obsessed with food to the point where you're weighing literally everything, or if you have something off plan, you're then beating yourself up and you're guilty about it, and you then try and counter correct it the next day or whatever, that is an eating disorder, and it's something you need to get your head around to work through. But yeah, to answer the question that you actually asked, there are certain clients at time when I get a better understanding of a client, I can then go, look, I know what shoes you're in because I have been in those shoes. Because my first goal is to make people understand that we do know what we're talking about. And because, like you say, there's that misbelief that to do this job, we have to be perfect. And it just categorically is not true. Nobody is. Nobody that has a gym or does online coaching or does face-to-face coaching can put their hands up and go, yeah, I'm following this perfectly. I've got the right balance and I feel great in how I am and this, that, and the other. There might be some, but the majority don't. But it's not our job to delve that to you as clients. Our job is to help you achieve what you need. Yes, we know how to do it. We are employing it ourselves. And that's why if you speak to most decent coaches, they have coaches. in the same way that decent coaches may also have therapists, because we know that we need to do additional work on ourselves, so that it's about us being able to give you what you need fully. And for that, I need to be able to, when I sit with somebody, my world doesn't exist, it's their world, and I'm in their world to help them. My troubles, pardon my French, my bullshit, my struggles, they're mine, but I have to take them away from that moment. Prime example, like my best mate killed himself at the start of this month, but I still came in every day and did my classes and did my one-to-one. Yes, I had an evening where I was like, guys, I'm not here, I can't do it. But I still turned up as Coach Haydn, who does his thing, because I'm here for them. And yeah, it's a distraction and it helps me, but they wouldn't know that if I didn't tell them. And I only told them because we have that relationship that I can. But that's the thing, is you've got to understand that most coaches are here. Most people that I've spoke to that are qualified coaches that do this not as a job, but as a vocation, there's a massive difference. And you don't do this for a job, because I hate to break the myth to you outside, being a coach or a PT or a gym owner is not the rainbow life of, I get to just go to the gym and train every day, life's easy. It really isn't. We are emotional support dogs for our clients. We're not just doing your training, your diet plan, we're also your therapists. We help you deal with your problems, and we have to plan for everybody. This is not an easy job. But the reason we sit here is because we have a passion for it, because we know the difference it makes to people's lives. Not just from an egotistical, I can change your life, but I can change your life. Why? Because I've had to do it for myself. And we go down this route to sit in these chairs because it's something that's affected us. And we've learned to do this so that we can apply it to you. That's why we're here. It's not because we're perfect and you should copy our example. We have been in your shoes in some way, shape or form. And we've come out the back end of it. And in some cases, we're still going through it, but we still are able to show up and do it because we know the tools we need to do it. Yeah, we may need help, but we can still do it. And that's what we are for you. We're here as not just the knowledge and the experience in terms of the qualifications, we're lived experience that we can pass on to you. That's generally the way you want to look at it, is coaches are people. And listen. One of the best things you can do is, if you're looking at other coaches, listen to the messages they're putting out. There's a reason for it. It's because it's something that's affected them. It's why they work with people. If you listen to Dee or look at her page and the stuff she posts, there's a reason why she posts that stuff, because it's a lived experience, because we know it.
And if somebody had been watching this and they've been on the fence of joining a gym or tempted to reach out, but now in their heads going, no one can help me, like what would you say to them? What's going to help them make that step?
Like the first thing to understand, and this is a conversation I have literally every client within the first 1 or 2 sessions. It's the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know, the only person that can help you is yourself, right? You have to honestly be in a position where you're ready to change. And we've had members that have joined us, and after a few weeks, they've gone, can I be honest? I used to turn up and wait outside for a few weeks. So like, it's been a few weeks, but I have been here. I just never been in because I wasn't ready to make that step. And the reality is, if you're not ready to make that step, you can't be forced to make it. Like, we're not sitting here going, if you're not a member of a gym at the minute, and if you're not doing something active, you have to do it now. We're saying you need to, but you need to understand why. And everybody's why is going to be a little bit different. To a degree, that if you drilled, and again, another conversation I have with every client, if we drill down to it, the reason everybody joins a gym is because they want to feel good naked. That is it. Like, it may sound egotistical, but I hate to break it to you. It really is. If you drill it down, you want to feel comfortable in your own skin. It may be because you want to attract a partner. It may be just because I used to look this way and that was when life was good and I want to get back to that. Once we've established that, it's then understanding it's not about a look, it's a feel. It's an emotional thing. And yeah, obviously there's a massive health thing to it to make sure we improve longevity and reduce your risk of injury. But ultimately, it's getting you back into a state or a situation where physically, mentally, and emotionally, you want to be the best version of you possible. And we can help you do that, but you have to be willing and ready to make that step. So you may be sat here listening to this and it may not be the right time to make that step, but you've got to start putting that work in to get to that point where you can make that step, and understand there are people that can literally help you. There are some people that won't really be the right people to help, but you know, without tooting our horns, we are those people because we have a record of doing it.
Thanks, babe.
That's all right.
We'll wrap that up there, and yeah, what an emotional roller coaster.